So a really good day for England in front of thousands here at the Kensington Oval. They made lots and lots of noise over from the right-hand side. They're in the party stand, the swimming pool that was full for much of the day, dancing girls, people on stilts. We had absolutely everything down there, and they had a great day, particularly because of the way that it finished. 2:44 for 3. It's quite a low-scoring day, I guess, but it began slowly too, with Crawley out in the 4th over for a duck. That was 4 for 1. Then a painstaking innings from Alex Lees, 30 from 138 balls. He put on 72 with Root in 41 overs. He was finally LBW to the spinner Permal for those 30. That was 80 for 2 in 45 overs, and then no doubt the partnership, the batting of the day, because Dan Lawrence came out to bat at number 4, and he just played so breezily, beautifully. He just took the game by the scruff of the neck, really, not with over-attacking, but just being busy, just wanting to get things moving along, and he really got that partnership going. He made an excellent 91. He was actually dropped on 72 at slip, but 91, he hit 2 boundaries in the last over of the day, got greedy, and off the penultimate ball he went for another and holed out at cover. I should think he's absolutely, well, furious and devastated to a mixture in the dressing room this evening. Joe Root, when he saw it, soon put his hand on his head as if he just couldn't believe it. Root was dropped on 34, catch down the leg side to the keeper, got to his 50 from 125 balls, and he'll resume on 119, having hit his 25th Test century and of course his second of this series. So lots to talk about with Dean Wilson. I think I know who will be making the headlines in your paper tomorrow, Dean, but I think I know who the most eye-catching innings was. You'll go for Root, won't you, as the back page headline?
Well, certainly, yeah, my piece does start with the words Joe Root.
Well, that's nailed on there.
I don't think you can ignore his continued brilliance. A 25th Test match 100, absolutely outstanding, albeit, as you mentioned, with a little bit of luck on this occasion. He was put down by the keeper, and they missed a chance where they could have reviewed an inside edge and chose not to. So he did have a little bit of luck, but you know what? The way that he's batting at the moment, I think he's kind of earned himself a little bit. But in saying that, I've written plenty about Dan Lawrence as well, because I did think... I think I used the phrase where Joe Root shined, Dan Lawrence sparkled, because his innings really was a joy to watch. It elevated the game. It elevated the day's play from a very sedate but understandably cautious start with Alex Lees just keen to get himself up and away and get a score on the board. But once he went, Dan Lawrence just took the game by the scruff of the neck and just batted with a panache, a swagger. I called him a rock star in the paper today, because that's how it was.
I think the last person you referred to as that might have been Kevin Peterson.
His name also makes an appearance.
Does it?
Did you? Have you
I haven't read it yet,
my
Dean.
shoulder?
I'm rushing to read it online.
Well, I made the point that it was lovely to see Chris Gale here. In fact, he was on the stage in the party stand, which I know you were fully focused on throughout the day. And I thought that Kevin Peterson, the way that he played, was pretty reminiscent out there. And of course, Chris Gale is great friends of KP, and I thought, well, if Dan Lawrence wasn't out there batting, he'd certainly be in the party stand enjoying himself with Chris Gale. So,
and yet he's not that sort of showman figure, is he, Dan Lawrence? I mean, he bats, you're right, with flair and panache, but he's not he's not a Chris Gale, Kevin Peterson strutting around like a peacock.
No, he's not. I think there's only room for 2 of those in world cricket. But I'm just talking about the style of his cricket, and he looks like he really enjoys playing that way. It feels as though when he's maybe trying to be more cautious. I think we saw in the subcontinent in Sri Lanka, it didn't suit him too well, and actually then when he came out and played more freely, got a half century in Sri Lanka and looked the part and look really good. So I think that's the formula for him and the way that he wants to go about batting. Of course, it's not always easy to bat that way, especially at Test level, because you don't get a huge amount to hit that often, and the pitches certainly are not as beneficial and not as tailor-made for batting as this one is. So I just enjoyed the fact that he played that way and gave the fans plenty to cheer alongside, obviously, Joe Root's performance. And And I also thought that the way that Joe Root helped guide Zach Crawley through to his 100 in Antigua, he was sort of doing the same thing with Lawrence. I thought that Lawrence, after he got to his 50, actually kind of got his head, he slowed down a little bit, got his head down a bit, and almost kind of gave himself a little reset. Still played the odd stroke and it was still very entertaining, but I thought that was Root's influence, and maybe, just maybe, Root was throwing his head back, kicking himself, because after that second successive boundary off Holder in that final over,
quiet word,
I think Root probably thinks, do you know what, I should have just gone and said something.
He had his hands on his head, did you see at the end, when you make a great picture that someone will have, no doubt. But I think that's exactly right. I think he might just be saying, why didn't I just do it? How do we talk about Alex Lee's innings? I mean, it's ever so tough, someone coming in. I mean, he has got this reputation for being a grafter, let's be honest. And we did see that today with 30 from 138 balls. I mean, I feel that there are enough positive batsmen around to be able to have an anchor-like person like Alistair Cook, if you like. I mean, he didn't score quite as slowly as that usually, but Lees is just starting out. But Crawley generally is quite a momentum player. Root, Lawrence, we've talked about, Stokes, Bairstow. I mean, they're all stroke players. So actually, you probably can have a rock there at the top.
Definitely, there is room for all sorts. This game, you can. The spectrum is wide in terms of what you can bring to it, and I thought that Alex Lees kind of did his job actually. Opening batsman, day one of a Test match, the first morning in Barbados, and someone like Akimar Roach, who's really keen to perform and to get him again. I thought the way that he managed to nullify that threat was a real feather in his cap, and something.
Well, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. Absolutely. There weren't too many freebies actually on offer in that first session. I know that the way that Lawrence and Root subsequently played, but you don't get to that point without going through the tough bit first up. And I think that Alex Lees, if anything, he just didn't get the chance to cash in on what he'd earned in the morning. But I know there'll be people out there already bemoaning his scoring rate and saying how slow it was and all the rest of it. I just would ignore that. I wouldn't even worry at all, and just carry on doing building your career. You're an opening batsman. Your job is to see off the opening bowlers, take the shine off the ball. If you've got a few strokes to play, by all means go for it and put the bad ball away. But really, you're there to kind of protect your middle order, so that when Lawrence strolls to the wicket, it's 80 for 2 rather than 8 for 2.
Yeah. I think the main difference with Lees is that he's got a technique. And we've seen Sibley, we've seen Burns with these really curious, strange techniques that I think would contribute to their downfalls. Where Alex Lees has actually got a decent, solid left-hander's technique. So you'd think he's actually got a decent chance. You
would, but you'd also, it's all about consistency, really. It's the hardest place to bat, clearly. But if you're able more often than not to get your team off to a decent start and not have your 4, 5 and 6 coming out to the wicket before lunch, then that is such a vital cog in the machinery. So Alex Lees now has got a few runs there. He's got 30. That's something. Build on that the next game, build on that the next innings, and keep going. And if you're doing a job, the thing is, we might want to be entertained, and the fans and all the rest on social media might have their view. What matters is teammates in the dressing room, and I can absolutely guarantee you that they will be absolutely delighted with his 30 there today. Obviously would have hoped he got more, but he did a job for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear from the team then, shall we? And I've been speaking to Marcus Trescothick.
Well, Marcus, how do you sum up that day?
Very good day. I think to win the toss and take full advantage of winning it and batting. We're very pleased with where we are. I think a couple of big scores from the lads, and we're in a commanding position. A nice job that we can come back hopefully tomorrow and really sort of pile on more runs and put ourselves in a position to win the game.
I suspect Joe Root will get the headlines tomorrow again for his second 100, but for me the most eye-catching innings came from Dan Lawrence actually.
Well, the two of them together, I think it's about 165 of a partnership, and it was really nice. Great to watch and sit up there and see it. Both of them played well. Joe just been the disciplined self that he's been, and workmanlike that he goes about it. But Dan gave it a little bit of flair. There was some some real nice shots within there, a good tempo about what he was trying to do, and I think deserved 100 because he's worked so hard for it. But just something we'll keep on top of and see what happened towards the end there.
Yeah, like flair's a good word. I mean, he's busy. He brings something, doesn't he?
Well, he's got that little bit of something very different about his game. He can play shots that some of the lads don't try and take on, and he's quite risky in certain areas, and but he's quite fluent in when he's playing against the spin and other bowlers. But you put that together with a combination of real quality at the other end with Joe. I think it makes for a good partnership to watch them playing together. So hopefully we'll see more from Dan, and hopefully he can go and get bigger scores next time.
I mean, he showed it in Antigua in that second innings, actually, didn't he? I mean, playing for the team and playing again some wonderful shots.
Yeah, when you see him play the way he did against the spin, sort of inside out over extra cover when the spinner's bowling over the wicket into the rough, it's real quality, isn't it? Yeah. Reminded me of someone going back a few years ago, playing with the sort of KP sort of style, those sort of shots really. But he's got class, he's got quality, and we'll see plenty of it hopefully.
And were you expecting that? I mean, it was either him or Pope, I guess, and Pope's had a chance. Were you expecting this sort of performance from Lawrence and the way that he's played?
Well, working with him in the nets, I think he's been very clear about what he's trying to do. Working hard at his game to get a better understanding, to be more consistent than what he's been in the past when he's had opportunities. And he just needed that next chance to have a go. And I think he's been very clear about what he's trying to do, so that when he gets this opportunity, like he has done, that he can really sort of fill his boots. So it's up to him to keep coming back and doing it, because we know that the talent is there with Dan. We know the talent's there with Ollie as well. So whoever's opportunity is going to come around, they've got to take it and make the most of it to sort of cement their place in the middle order.
I never understood you batsmen and batting positions. For me, 10 or 11 made no difference really. But have we seen the end of any debate about route and 3 or 4, do you think?
I think it works really well at the moment. Obviously he's been in great form. He's 200s in 2 games. There's no reason that we need to worry about whether he bats 4 or 3, depending on what he wants to do, isn't it? I think
it's him, I guess.
Well, it is, and how it fits into the team also. I think it's a combination of different things, but I think it'll probably ease everybody's mind to see how good a player he is at the moment, and he could still bat at 3, or he could bat at 4 or 5 or 6, and I think he'd still produce the same results.
And last thought, Marcus, I mean, a good score tomorrow. You've got a very inexperienced attack, a young attack, 2 debutants. It'd be, I guess, great for them to come and bowl with a really big total behind them.
Well, it's a lot easier, isn't it, when you've got that in place? You know that the West Indies lads will hopefully be tired by the end of the day. You're going to, mentally, you'll put them under pressure with that big score, hopefully. What more do you want? Apart from the ball nipping all over the place, if you could sit up there for a day and a half and then go out to bowl with 500 on the board, hopefully, that will be the ideal start for them, and let's see how they get on.
Well, that's Marcus Roscothik, who's the lead batting coach at this changing scenery that there is around the England camp at the moment. A quick word about, Matt Fisher, of course, coming in at the last moment, and Saqib Mahmood. I mean, it'd be great for those 2 young fast bowlers to come in with a mountain of runs in the background. Yeah,
that'll make life a little bit easier for them, although having seen how the West Indies bowlers have toiled on day one, I should think they'll be maybe getting some prehab in for the workload that they've got to come when it's their turn.
Well, I've met Matt Fisher. He seems quite a confident character, and you've established 1 or 2 interesting things about his background, haven't you?
Well, it's great to see a young player, making his Test debut. It's interesting that now that he's officially an international cricketer, his mum and his brothers can collect on a pretty tasty bet, £100 bet they put on when he was just 14. That he would play for England at 50 to 1, and now they can collect. And he's a really skillful bowler. He actually made his debut for Yorkshire at the tender age of 15, so maybe the bookie needed to do a bit more research before offering those odds.
And yeah, he's only played 20 odd first-class matches in that time, so I mean, there is an injury record there.
There is, absolutely, yeah, there is. And like a lot of young fast bowlers or medium fast bowlers, it takes a bit of time to kind of get that consistency in it, but he did play throughout last summer, and I think that with Fisher, what I've seen and also heard from talking to others about him is about this skill level that he's got, that his ability to control and move the ball is I say second to none, but probably second to Jimmy Anderson, who, by the way, is his bowling hero. Perfectly understandably, Jimmy Anderson will be an inspiration to so many. And certainly the guy that Matt Fisher says he modelled his attack on. It was actually a really good interview by David Coverdale of the Daily Mail, who's I think a family friend, and really enjoyed interviewing Matt when he got his call up, and some really interesting morsels in that. So I must give David credit for that. Yeah,
quite right too. There we are.